Hello again, my subscribers. Today we are doing a Let's Read. Well, this is it.
Here it is, the moment you've been waiting for. Here it is, you know exactly what's in store.
I've been building up to this moment, and now we're getting into it.
What's happening?
My fan fiction that acts as a sequel to My Immortal. Some of the characters you will recognize, and others you will not. I've already said one of them will not be read, because I don't want to give this guy any more attention than he deserves. But I will link some Let's Reads of his books. This way, it'll make a little more sense once we get there.
And so, without further gilding the lily, and with no more ado,
Let's read the trio of impractically perfect characters. The fires of hell raged, bringing forth horned imps and scaly demons with bifurcated tails to torture any damned soul who earned a place here, and business was booming. These unfortunates included the usually suspected crowd: the psychopathic and murderous political leader, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Kim Jong-il, Saddam Hussein, Muammar al-Gaddafi, and Benito Mussolini; the sociopathic and predatory cult leader, Jim Jones, Charles Manson, Joseph Smith, L. Ron Hubbard, David Koresh, Marshall Applewhite, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, and Osama bin Laden; the serial killer, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, Albert Fish, Andre Chikatilo, and Jeffrey Dahmer; the complacent leader who cared only for his image rather than those who were wronged, Cardinal Bernard Law and William S. Skylestad, and so on. A few no-names were included in the lot, like the abusive father, the embezzling bank manager, the tax-evading con artist, or the pedophile from next door in a neighborhood occupied mainly by Mormons or Catholics. Hell didn't discriminate when it came to evildoers, but it had its own rules of who qualified and who didn't. All religious people who believed in a place of evil where the wicked are punished would be disappointed to see who landed here and who didn't. Often, as a surprise, they began their afterlives with red-hot pitchforks shoved up their orifices and constant reminders of why they earned their places in hell: killing the gay kid, assaulting the trans person in a public bathroom without seeing the irony of their prejudices regarding that particular scenario, and wiping out an entire civilization because they didn't believe in the same invisible man in the sky in which they believed. By the way, if any of this sounds like a hidden agenda within what should be an enjoyable, albeit ridiculous story, then tough titty. When you go around committing any of these awful acts against the human race, then, to quote Arthur Fleck,
get what you fucking deserve!
But there was one person here, not because she did any of this, although some of her behaviors cross over into these crimes. Oh no, her place in hell was earned because she did nothing but cause misery, anger, and controversy for the people around her. Her name was cause for eye-rolling and bad memories for those who had the misfortune of being acquainted with her. Her name was Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway. At least, that was what she called herself. No one knew what her real name was, nor did they understand why the apostrophe had to be in the word darkness, let alone placed explicitly between the K and N. Every time that question was asked of her by her fellow students or teachers, she yelled or gave them a rather rude gesture. That was one of her many reasons why people so reviled her. A part of being in hell was repeatedly experiencing one's worst fear or moment in life. Each person has their own: death, loss of a loved one, or disfigurement, to name a few. There was no shortage of items for this type of torture. For Ebony, The suffering was wearing a bright pink polo shirt with a seagull stitched into the fabric, a denim miniskirt that looked destroyed, and leggings with a small moose sewn into the hem. A pretty bag with an eagle was draped over her shoulder with the words, "Live your life," sewn in every inch. Prep clothing, a big no-no in Ebony's book. She repeatedly ripped off the polo, only to find another of the same kind underneath. This is what she experienced for thousands of years. "I fucking hate prep clothing!" she screamed. Ebony always considered herself Gothic, or, as she often pronounced it, Gothic, and therefore detested and despised what she viewed as prep clothing, clothes worn by people who didn't partake in the Gothic lifestyle. Her style of speech was odd. The way she pronounced words made them sound not quite right. She spoke just like she wrote, full of typographical errors and unnecessary parentheticals, where she had to remind people that she was both Gothic and a Satanist. Mostly that idiosyncrasy, or annoyance to some, was because of some foolish joke she made that nobody laughed at because it simply wasn't funny. She also believed that she was a vampire, and all vampires had to wear the same type of Gothic clothing. She thought this was one reason humans didn't understand her. How could they? They were humans, and she was a vampire, even though vampires didn't exist. But she was in hell now, and this was what she had to suffer for all eternity, her and her ever-growing pile of pink polo shirts. Back on Earth, Los Angeles, California's citizens ran away from a battle seeking protection from the onslaught. But they knew they wouldn't be safe for very long. Yes, they encountered worse: earthquakes, Proposition 8, the 2016 election, and the overturning of Roe v. Wade, but this was unlike anything they'd ever before seen. The two titans stood before each other in a Mexican standoff. Both trained their Desert Eagles on each other. The odd thing about these titans was that they didn't resemble the ones typically found in Greek mythology, unless the Greeks hid something so the Romans couldn't steal it. Instead, they echoed a dog and cat. Their bodies, however, resembled a man's. More specifically, bodybuilders. "It's over, Garfield," announced the dog. He was covered in yellow fur, and his ears were long and brown. He wore an eye patch, and his left arm was cybernetic. Sparkling metal spikes decorated his shoulders. An evil cape trailed from his back. His one good eye looked like it had either a plan or no plan. "No, Odie," said the cat named Garfield coolly. "It's over when you're singing to the fat lady with bullets in your body." Garfield was an orange tabby who usually had a laid-back look in his eyes. He was shirtless because his muscles were too big for any size shirt. At least, that's what he told himself. But he always wore pants and combat boots. Now, they scowled at the assailant. He also had an odd habit of giving a fist bump with his right arm every time he said the word with. No one understood why. He never explained it. "You want to shoot me?" teased Odie. "I'd like to see you try. You're not man enough to shoot me." Calling to task his manliness was a way for Odie to get under Garfield's skin, and they both knew it. Still, it didn't stop the giant tabby from following through on a threat. "You want to be betting with gamblings?" said Garfield. He pulled the trigger on his Desert Eagle, and a bullet tore through Odie's chest. The dog fell to the ground in pain. Clutching his chest, Odie felt an extreme heat. It wasn't his flowing blood, nor the smoke of the bullet. He brought his hand to his eye line and found a mixture of his blood and tomato sauce, remnants of noodle sheets, ricotta cheese, and beef bits. He knew instantly what it was, and it annoyed him more than Garfield's idiosyncratic speech. "Lasagna bullets!" exclaimed Odie painfully and irritably. "Really? What the fuck is your obsession with lasagna?" Garfield had a love bordering on obsession with lasagna, and it had gotten on Odie's nerves for quite some time now. The cat included it in everything, including the flavor of his brand of cigarettes. The pack he pulled from his pocket, placed a stick between his lips, and lit it with the flame burning out of the barrel of the Desert Eagle. "It is truly greatest thing in world," said Garfield, taking a long drag and blowing it, next, of course, to sexy ladies with lovings on their minds. He holstered the Desert Eagle and held out his fist, thumb raised to the sky. A spaceship appeared out of thin air, and a beam shot out of its underside, hitting the ground. A hole opened under Odie, and before he could respond, he fell, screaming to the center of the earth. "Very good," said Garfield, nodding his head approvingly. He held his fist up to the sky again. The beam narrowed, and the hole closed. But a figure leapt out just before the closure was complete. Garfield had his hand on his Desert Eagle, ready to draw. But this was not his nemesis. The figure stood up and brushed herself off. She was dressed in a pink polo and a destroyed denim miniskirt. Her hair was black and reached her mid-back. The ends were red. She looked up at Garfield, who was shocked. "Is this Hogwarts?" asked Ebony. Ebony tore pink polos off her body, trying vainly to escape them when a hole opened from above. She looked up and saw a light she hadn't seen in 1,000 years. Hell time moved quicker than Earth time, so 20 years on Earth equaled 1,000 years in Hell. Therefore, any light that wasn't hellfire was a welcome change. But Ebony knew this light well. It was light from Earth. Home. A doorway back home. Immediately, she looked around for something allowing access to the hole, but found nothing. The sadness was so overbearing that she looked around for a sharp rock. It was common for her to slash her wrists when she couldn't take the stress of being away from what she wanted most. However, being in hell meant she would never be liberated by wrist slashing, and considering the number of times she had somehow been saved from bleeding to death, that wasn't saying much. Still, it was better than wearing prep clothing. Before she could complete the suicidal task, a figure dropped into the hole and bounced off the giant pile of pink polos to the hot ground. It looked like a massive dog with a muscular body. An odd sight indeed. But the Earth's light kept her attention, and she noticed a view she ignored until now. The polos reached the hole. "That's how I can get out of this fucking place," screamed Ebony. She ran to the pile and immediately started her climb, but her leg was caught. She looked down and saw the dog grabbing her leg, a crazed look in his eye. "Let go of me, you fucking freak!" screamed Ebony. One swift kick to the hand, and he let go. Tumbling down the pink hill, he cried, "I'll get you, Garfield!" called out the dog. "Whatever that means," said Ebony. She flipped him the bird, the rude gesture she gave everyone, and continued upward toward the light. And just before it closed, she landed on her face on the pavement. She stood up and brushed herself off. Nothing looked the same as it did when she was alive. Upon inspection, she saw everyone wearing tight clothing, thickly rimmed glasses, and the women wearing high-waisted jeans, shorts, and dresses. They all had a strange device in their hands that shone light into their faces. Their thumbs worked away at the screens at a quick pace. Ebony turned her attention away from the strange crowd and saw an orange cat with the same body type as the dog. Having attended Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, Ebony was used to seeing all sorts of weird and unusual things. But she'd be lying if she said this was something old hat. Still, she ventured a guess. "Is this Hogwarts?" Ebony asked. "What nonsense are you blathering about with babblings, woman?" asked Garfield. It was his instinct to approach any woman within his sights immediately, but none of them uttered nonsensical words like Hogwarts. Although the name sounded familiar to him, he couldn't quite place it. Ebony saw the cigarette in his mouth and asked, "Do you have an extra cigarette on you?" "Always, with preparations," said Garfield. He pulled a cigarette from his pocket and handed it to her. She never smoked before. The worst thing she'd done health-wise was cut herself. But this was something she needed at the moment. She couldn't explain why. Do you have a light? Asked Ebony. Garfield withdrew his Desert Eagle and said, I always have a light both in my hand and in my pants to spare for sexy ladies. Don't shoot! Yelled Ebony, raising her hands. A bullet to the heart was her ticket to hell, and she did not want us to send her back. Never fear, Sugar Lips, said Garfield. It's not loaded. He cocked the gun, and a tiny flame appeared from the barrel, lighting Ebony's cigarette. She took a long drag, and just as she was getting ready to exhale, she spat out the smoke, coughing. While she had never tasted tobacco, she knew something about the addictive stick that didn't taste right, based on smelling others smoking tobacco. This tastes like a plate of spaghetti, sputtered Ebony. It is not spaghetti cigarette, said Garfield indignantly. It's lasagna cigarette. How could she not tell the difference between lasagna and spaghetti? Was she dense? Was she retarded? How could she launch forth such an insult? Who did she think she was? It was goddamn lasagna. Why do you have a lasagna-flavored cigarettes? Asked Ebony. It was weird that a humanoid cat would walk around in, what looked like anyway, the Muggle, non-magic, world. But lasagna-flavored cigarettes? Because lasagna with ladies is greatest thing in world, said Garfield in a matter-of-fact way. Why no one agreed with him was something of an unsolvable mystery. This is disgusting, said Ebony. No normal person smokes these. She threw the cigarette onto the ground and stomped it into the road. This was not a good gesture for anyone to give, and it was a sign of disrespect to the earth to dump trash everywhere. But usually a friendly reminder can set things right. For Garfield, however, this was heinous on every front he knew. The environment, especially lasagna. He had to teach her a lesson in decency. He walked up to her, raised his open hand, and brought it down across her face. Like a popper on the concrete sidewalk, a loud crack rang through the street. Everyone's attention turned to the quarrel. Having fallen to the ground, Ebony looked up at Garfield with shock. Littering is bad, bellowed Garfield. The world doesn't need any more sad Indians with teary eyes or dirty streets with garbage. But don't be bad-mouthing lasagna with slandering. Ebony stared up at Garfield. Her eyes widened in anger. Who the hell was this freak to hit her? She didn't know what he was or where he came from, but she didn't care. No one was allowed to lay a hand on her like that. Nobody. And if they did, they would regret it. She shot back onto her feet and ran to Garfield, fist already working on bruising him up. It hurt her hands because of his rock-hard abs, but she didn't care. Initially, Garfield was surprised. No other woman in his travels ever stood up to him like that. But an attack was an attack, and he grabbed her fists and lowered her arms to her sides. She tried to escape his grip, but he was too strong. Let me go, you fucking pussy! Screamed Ebony. Not until you calm down with relaxation, sugar tits, said Garfield. What did you call me? Screamed Ebony, further enraged. Sugar tits. I call all ladies nice names with terms of endearment. Oo think that's a nice name? Oo fucking dolt? Yes. Well, it's not. It's fucking misogynistic. And oo don't get to hit me. Noon does. Oo hear me? Noon. The spaceship from the fight landed before them. The engine shut off, and the walkway lowered from the bottom of the ship. Ebony and Garfield heard the roar of a motorcycle engine from inside the vessel. The noise grew louder, and a man on a Harley-Davidson came out, popping a wheelie as he stopped before the two fighters. He wore a dark green beanie, blue-gray long-sleeved denim shirt, a gray winter vest, and black fingerless gloves. Around his waist there were two belts. One of them had a phone in a holster. Strapped to both of his thighs were holsters for guns. A holster for a giant gun was strapped to his back. A circular beard surrounded his mouth. His brown eyes looked dead. Stop fighting, said the biker. Garfield. John Freeman and woman must get back onto the ship. There are many more missions for Garfield and John Freeman to have. Garfield and John Freeman must live up to family name and face full life consequences. You are being right with knowledge, my friend, said Garfield. They entered the ship. with a biker popping a wheelie along the way. The spaceship served its inhabitants on many adventures, and along the way they collected a wide array of memorabilia. Most belonged to Garfield: a Red Ryder BB gun mounted on the wall of the corridor, a royal seal from King George VI sitting on a shelf, a portrait of Garfield shouting in a microphone at a concert, and dozens of other pictures showing a variety of public figures and species of aliens he encountered along the way. A good number of them were females. Some of these pictures featured the biker. Ebony looked at all of them. "Ooh, get around," said Ebony to Garfield, who still had her wrists in his hands. "Could you pulls let me go?" "Will you be calling your jets with composures?" asked Garfield. "Yes," said Ebony. "I'm over it." Garfield let Ebony go. She brushed herself off and looked around the place. "Welcome to our home," said Garfield, holding his hands out. "Yay," said Ebony unenthusiastically. She walked around, looking at everything. It was pretty unappealing to her. Magazines everywhere, most of the Hugh Hefner type. They were rather disturbing. "Those are not John Freeman's," said the biker. "Good to know," said Ebony. "But who flies this thing?" "I do," replied Garfield, puffing his chest out and pointing at himself with his thumb. "What are you doing?" asked Ebony, unimpressed. "Showing off my manliness with pride," Garfield said matter-of-factly. "Are you not infatuated yet? The swooning should start soon with lovings." "No, am nut." Garfield exhaled, losing his posture. "How can this be?" he asked. "All sexy ladies be loving my manly muscles with admiration." "Welcome to 1997, said Ebony. "The year is 2023, actually," said the biker. "What?" screamed Ebony. "It's truth," said Garfield. "But," stuttered Ebony, "what happened?" "To Hogwarts, to Draco, to Voldemort. What in lasagna-drenched hell are you blathering about with nonsense words?" asked Garfield. "Maybe John Freeman can help," said the biker. He walked to the cockpit and opened the door. Just as he was about to enter, he saw Ebony still with Garfield. "Come in," said the biker. "Isn't John Freeman going to help me?" asked Ebony. "Where is he?" "John Freeman is here," said the biker, pointing to himself, "and ready to face full-life consequences." Ebony stared at him. When he said John Freeman, he referred to himself this whole time. Why would anyone talk like that? Sure, the big cat speech was odd, but this was just plain fucked. Ebony entered the cockpit, and John Freeman led her to the computer. He was a computer expert working in an IT lab before meeting Garfield. Now he was landed with a task of computer engineering and maintenance. But this was what he used to try to take his mind off of what he longed for but would never find again. He typed the word Hogwarts into the search engine and was directed to a nicely designed website with an emblem shaped like a shield divided into 4 parts. Each part had an animal: a lion on the top left, a snake on the top right, a badger on the bottom left, and a raven on the bottom right. Underneath the shield was a ribbon where the words Draco Normiens Nunquam Titilandus. Ebony knew that this was it. "Look up Draco Malfoy," said Ebony. John Freeman typed the name Draco Malfoy and was taken to a page listing all Hogwarts graduates. Draco Malfoy was found in the M section for the class of 1998. The moment she saw him, Ebony grew weak in the knees. Pale face, light hair, a look of superiority. This was the man of her dreams. He was the one who made her heart pound and her girlhood tremble. She lost count of how many nights she spent massaging herself to him. How often did she excuse herself from class to run to the lavatory because her panties were wet? She didn't know, and she didn't care. All that mattered was Draco Malfoy. "That's him," said Ebony. "I have to go back to Hogwarts." "But the website says Draco Malfoy graduated in 1998, said John Freeman. "Where is he then?" said Ebony defensively. John Freeman searched for Draco and came up with a profile. He read aloud. "The website says that Draco Malfoy lives at home with his son. Draco Malfoy is independently wealthy and a widower. "That's a lie!" screamed Ebony. "He would never do that. He would never marry someone else. I'm his one and only. I'm his immortal. I bring him to life, and he does the same for me. Now take me to Hogwarts." Garfield entered the cockpit, having heard it all. "Listen to me, woman," shouted Garfield. "If my partner speaks truth, it is best to believe it with acceptings." "Shut the fuck up, you fucking prep," screamed Ebony. Garfield raised his arm to strike her. She quickly retrieved her black wand from her asshole and pointed it at Garfield. "Friezo-Cato!" announced Ebony, waving her wand and pointing it at Garfield. Instantly, he froze stiffly and fell onto his back. Ebony walked to him and stood over his face like a hawk. "Ooh, listen to me, you orange fuck," started Ebony. "Oo all are going to take me to Hogwarts now." John Freeman stood up and looked over Garfield. "Is Garfield alive?" asked John Freeman. "Yes," said Ebony, "but I know the killing curse. Would you like me to show you?" "Oh, please don't do that," pleaded John Freeman. "Then you will take me to Hogwarts?" "Yes, Garfield and John Freeman will take woman to Hogwarts. Just return Garfield to the way Garfield was." "'Kay," said Ebony, pointing her wand at Garfield. Waving and flicking again, she announced, "Removo spello." Garfield felt his limbs move as soon as the red light shot from the wand and hit his body. He bolted back up onto his feet and glared at Ebony. "Who are you?" demanded Garfield, "to commit such atrocity against me?" "The name is Ebony," she replied. "Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way." "What ridiculous name is that?" asked Garfield. "It doesn't matter. We will be throwing you off ship soon with force." John Freeman already said that Garfield and John Freeman will take Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way to Hogwarts, said John Freeman, and that if John Freeman and Garfield live up to John Freeman and Garfield's family name and face full life consequences, John Freeman and Garfield's lives would be spared. "I'm not scared of sorcerer witches," boasted Garfield. "I take on any danger with speed of cat greased with lightning." "Can you handle death?" asked Ebony, pulling out her wand. "I have died before," said Garfield, "but I've come back. I looked death in the face and kneed him in the groin and told him, 'Not today.' He ran away with whimperings." "That was because John Freeman and Garfield had resurrection stones," said John Freeman. "The planet and resurrection stones are gone now." "Must you always bring me down with cold watering?" asked Garfield, gritting his teeth. "She didn't know that. Now you're making us look weak and not as manly." If there was one thing about his partner that annoyed him, his unwavering honesty made his manliness look inadequate. But this was not the time for argument, so he continued. "Fine. We'll be taking you to Hoggen-Pigwarts with speed of rampaging water buffaloes." "Thangs. Get it? 'Cause I'm Gothic," said Ebony. "And it's Hogwarts." "That's what I said," answered Garfield. "Hogglywarts." Please join me again when we dive into Chapter 3. Like the Facebook page, Instagram page, Tumblr, and TikTok pages. Subscribe today. I upload every Saturday, or at least try to. Hit the notification bell to get notified. Like and favorite the video if you enjoyed it. Share it with everybody that you can. Thank you very much for watching. Please stay safe and healthy. And remember, it's chaos. Be kind.